Hey, thanks for listening to this Coach's Spotlight episode on FITLETE Radio. My name is George Pagan III. Let's meet our coach.
My name is Daniel Yores. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a podcast host as well. I live in Toronto, Canada, and I train clients, mostly general population. So people like you and I, regular people, not necessarily professional athletes. And I always have a focus on health first when it comes to the whole fitness and nutrition things all wrapped up. Long story, very short. I had tons and tons of injuries growing up, and that led me into getting super interested about fitness and performance and the human body and how it works and how it stops working and how to make it work better. And that has always given me a lens of how do I think about helping this person prevent injuries, prevent negative health outcomes, and use fitness as a means to improve their life. And so that's what I do to help my clients, both online and in person, and what I try to get out through my podcast as well.
I know you're an awesome coach and take your job seriously, but to get to know you a little bit more, can you tell us a funny story about your life that happened outside of coaching?
So this has happened multiple times over the past couple of years, really, and just again this morning before I'm recording this, and it's slightly fitness related, but again, just freshest in my mind here. I often will walk around in the neighborhood, go for walks outside with a weighted vest on, and part of why this is relevant and getting to know me is like I purposely bought a weighted vest that was like a little bit more expensive, but a little bit better, higher quality, more comfortable, those kind of things only because I knew that I was going to use it if it was a good one. And if it's like uncomfortable or kind of cheapy feeling and just not great for me, I'm not going to use it. And so I'm willing to kind of like go a little bit more to get the things that I want. But I always get looks because it's a better one, I guess, quote unquote. It very much looks like a bulletproof vest or like some sort of military vest or piece of equipment. And so I'll always get weird looks and funny comments about people asking if I'm in the military or if there's if there's a bomb threat or if there's a something like that. And the funniest thing that always happens, and again happened this morning, is the people who just stare at me as if I'm doing the weird thing. And one time I was walking down the street and driving towards me was guys dressed up as clowns. I assume they were going to a kid's birthday party or something, but they were literally dressed up as clowns in the car, looking at me as if I'm the weird one walking through the neighborhood wearing a weighted vest. And I'm just staring back at them like the same thing. Like, you guys are the weird ones dressed as clowns, literally dressed as clowns, not, proverbial clowns, literally clowns. And so that's just always a funny thing to me that like, hey, this whole fitness thing doesn't have to be so weird, and maybe it looks a little bit out of place, but there's a lot of weird things that people do, and so just do the things that are going to be helpful to you and that you think are correct, and are best for you, and don't really worry about what other people think because other people are doing weird stuff too.
We can't train everyone exactly the same. Our clients come to us having different life experiences and sometimes force us to think outside the box when it comes to their training. As a coach, how do you problem solve with your clients who come to you with some common aches, pains, injuries, some physical limitations, or previous traumas so they can still get the results that they want and the ones that they came to you for?
Fortunately or unfortunately, depending how you look at it, I have had a ton of injuries, as I referenced before, throughout my personal life and fitness career, if you will. And what that has done for me is given me a very large, very diverse toolbox in dealing with physical injuries and limitations to training, because I've injured more or less every single part of my body, probably more times, more than once. And so when someone comes to me with some type of limitation, the first thing I think about is, okay, we need to address that, but let's first think about all of the things that you can still do. So your shoulder hurts. Fine. Can we still do some lower body training? Can we still do some cardio? Can we still do some mobility work? What are the things that we can do? Like, let's focus on the positive, and then we do need to address the injury or the issue. And the way that I think about that is always like, well, it's not completely incapacitated unless it's some crazy, traumatic event where you can't move, you're in a cast or something like that. But that's, few and far between. So let's think about what you can do, and let's try and diagnose where the injury, what's causing pain for that injury or for that part of the body. So let's move you through a certain ranges of motion, find where it causes pain. If raising your arm all the way up over your head hurts, fine. If it only raising it halfway hurts or doesn't hurt, then great. So let's work within the pain-free ranges. And then from there, let's just find the greatest, safest range or level of intensity, if it's like an amount of weight or something like that, that we can use that doesn't cause any pain. And then let's work to improve that and work on that range and that part of the technique. And then over time, we'll expand the range and continue to improve upon whatever it is that you're trying to improve on. So really, it's just two parts. One, how do we work on the injury to actually help it improve? And two, let's focus more on the other things, and so that we can still keep a positive mindset while also still making positive progress in some of the other realms of fitness, and realms as in like cardio versus strength versus mobility versus whatever, or lower body versus upper body. So there's always something you can work on. So let's focus on working on that, and let's also tackle the problem areas as well.
Just like we are, most of our clients are spending time on social media and can get information from other people in their family and social circles. When questions come up during coaching calls and training sessions, how do you address some of the common misconceptions around nutrition and exercise with these clients?
I actually really enjoy when these things happen for a couple reasons. One, selfishly, I like a good debate. And two, it shows me that the client or the person is at least they're trying, right? I can't ever expect a client to know as much about fitness, health, nutrition as I do. And that's not because I'm so great. It's just because it's my job and I have more education and experience in this than, the average person out there, of course. And they should hope so. But it shows me that they're going out of their way, spending their time looking at some fitness stuff, looking at some nutrition stuff, and looking at things. And it's not their fault that you get inundated by tons of misconceptions, myths, and just straight up nonsense that's out there. The first thing that I'll go to try and tackle this is to understand where they saw it from or who they saw it from or what the context was. And if they can show me the post or the article or the whatever, the video, even better, because then I can understand what they possibly understand about it. Then we can start to work on something similar to the Socratic method, which is just continually asking why to get down to the root of whatever it is that they are talking about. And in breaking a concept down into its simplest forms and its most basic tenets, then we can really understand, well, why is this thing working? Is it the XYZ diet that's working, or is it because that XYZ diet is allowing you to eat in a calorie deficit and that's why you're losing weight, right? That's way oversimplification of this kind of conundrum, but that's kind of where it goes. So to recap it, it's like I always will think about where are they getting this information from? What's the context of it? What are they trying to achieve by implementing this myth or this misconception or whatever? And then how can I go about breaking it down for them and continually asking why and trying to answer the questions along the way to help them arrive at the conclusion on their own, instead of me just saying, no, that's wrong, this is right, like it's my way, not that way, because that's not really helpful either, and that doesn't help anyone learn. So by breaking it down, will help the client or the person kind of come to the correct conclusion on their own, and that usually works a lot more effectively and is better for that person long term.
Our clients could come to us for many reasons, and often they tell us in their consultations or new lead questionnaire that they have multiple goals or they're trying to work on a couple of things. Usually it's not just one sole specific thing. How do you approach goal setting with these clients who have multiple objectives when you ask them about what their goals are?
So similar to previously, I'll use a little bit of Socratic methodology here and asking why and trying to dig deeper into what it actually is or why it is that they're trying to achieve these few things. Now, it usually comes down to something not fitness related. As a base example, someone says they want to lose 10 pounds. It's not because they specifically want to lose 10 pounds. It's so that they can, put on a pair of pants or a shirt that they used to wear 10 years ago to go to a reunion or something like that. Maybe a bad example, but you get the picture here. So breaking down why, the underlying reason why they want to achieve that. And then they can understand the types of objectives that they have. Now, it's not very common for me to have people coming to me with fitness objectives that are like very opposite or maybe competitive with one another. And an example of that would be someone saying, hey, I want to run a marathon in, under 2.5 hours. And I also want to deadlift 600 pounds. Like those things are kind of separate and would get in the way of each other. But most people, their multiple objectives are actually far more related than they think they are, like having more energy, sleeping better, losing weight. Even if people say they want to lose weight and build more muscle, which are oftentimes seen as counter to each other, usually the person doesn't want to build a ton of muscle and like they just want to look better or feel better. And so getting leaner can give that objective or give that end result rather of looking like you have more muscle. And so again, you break things down into the smallest parts, try and understand them, and then we can just tackle them and say, hey, if we want to achieve X goal, then we by, X date, then we need to do Y things. And so when we kind of break things down, then it comes down to, well, are you willing and able to do those things? And if you are, then great. Let's go ahead. And if you're not willing and able to do what it takes to get that goal that you say that you want, well, then we need to either change the goal or we need to change what you're willing and able to do somehow. And so that's usually it ends up being changing the goal or changing the timeline of the goal more accurately, where someone says, hey, I want to get a 6-pack in 6 weeks. It's like, okay, maybe, but you'll have to do all these things. It's gonna be crazy hard. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. Maybe I can get a 6-pack in 6 months. How about that? It's like, okay, now we've got more. This is more real now. So again, coming back to breaking things down into their simplest parts, trying to understand the underlying motivations behind things, and then just setting intelligent goals. And things are often going to be more related than they seem like on the surface.
I believe all coaches should have similar baseline knowledge before starting to work with people. And I'm building FITLETE to help bridge some of these gaps that exist in our exposure to education. What experiences or qualifications do you think are crucial for coaches to have in order to deliver the best service they can for their clients?
So on the nerdy, more educational side of things, I don't think you necessarily need to have a university degree to be a great coach. And I mean, that's evident. There are plenty of amazing coaches out there who don't have university degrees, didn't study this in university. I do think you need to have a pretty good understanding of basic anatomy and like basic physiology, not because that will, you need to be able to remember every single muscle and every single, pathway in the body, but because it will give you an underlying understanding of why things work the way that they do. So understanding that from like the educational point of view. Um, More broadly speaking, I think you need to have an extremely open mind to experimenting with different things and understanding that people are going to react differently to different inputs and to different messaging. And so you need to be able to say the same thing in multiple different forms so that the person in front of you is going to be able to receive it. Now, the best way to do this and the best way to achieve this is by working with as many people as possible as early and as fast as you can in person. And I strongly believe that there's now a wave of people who are getting into coaching and they're just starting online because they got in shape themselves. And that's okay. But I think that you're missing out on a ton of experience and a ton of learning as to how to speak to people, how to handle objections as far as like people not wanting to do things, not like sales objections, but people not wanting to engage in certain behaviors and how to motivate people, how to work around problems, how to keep people on track. There's so many, and really the most important part of personal training is the personal part. And there's no better way to learn that than by building an in-person relationship with people. So the most important thing above anything else, even above the education, is like get in front of as many people as possible, work for free, intern if you have to, whatever you got to do, but get in front of as many people as you can, as early as you can, and you will learn way more than trying to study more and be perfect and all those things. Just get yourself in front of the most people as possible and really work on the personal side of this.
Our industry is evolving every step of the way, and we're getting to the point where it's essential to have some sort of technology within your business for both the experiences you can deliver for your clients and your ability to grow sustainably. How do you use technology to assist you in your coaching as a coach and behind the scenes as a coach that nobody really sees?
So I don't use a ton of technology, and maybe I should be using more, but things seem to be working as is. And maybe I do use more than I realize that I do. But basically, from what my clients will see is that I will have like my workouts and communication, or not so much communication, but I'll have the workouts and nutrition plans that I will give for my clients on an app. And so they'll have the app on their phone. I can see it on my phone. And then in that app has the workout that they should be doing that day, sets, reps, video demonstration, specific instructions, all that stuff, tracking the weights that they're using, the reps that they're doing, what they did last week, what they're supposed to do this week, all that kind of stuff. That's probably the biggest piece of technology, if you will, that I use. And quite frankly, the most important piece of technology that I use, because this allows clients to stay on track with their workouts, making sure that they're using good form, give reminders, and most importantly, always improving their workouts. Like tracking your workouts is unbelievably important, I think, as all coaches know, and most people don't do this. So simply having it on an app and seeing that, hey, I did 10 reps with 100 pounds last week, maybe I'll try 11 reps this week. And that alone will start to make people improve, and just implementing the very basic principle of progressive overload is a huge thing for that. For communication with my clients, like I'll communicate with my clients every single day, more or less. I usually just use WhatsApp, like just texting. It's not super fancy, just texting or voice notes or calling when we need to. So that's that. And then, I have email stuff. The podcast uses some recording software and things like that, but that's not super relevant to, it's separate, it's related, but separate to my coaching. But so, yeah, there's not a ton of technology that I use. I don't think, but maybe it's more than I think it is. I don't really use AI. I use it to help with some podcast thumbnails and like title iterations and stuff like that. But other than that, like, for now, I know my clients way better than ChatGPT does. And so I can, make their nutrition changes and nutrition guidance and lifestyle coaching and their fitness coaching like far better than an AI does that they're not directly talking to. So yeah, not a ton, mostly just for communication purposes and just to be able to easily coach people across different time zones and different parts of the world, but mostly about communication.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some great info about yourself. We finally got a chance to meet at the Real Coaches Summit this past year, and that was pretty awesome. We had been, floating around in the same circles together for a while, knowing a lot of the same people. So it was really great to meet him, and I'm glad you guys got to know him also a little bit more through this episode. And check the show notes to see how to get in contact with Daniel the Best. That's all for this episode. If you want to learn more about FITLETE and possibly get your own episode, visit fitlete.com. That's FITLETE.com. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.